Okay. Okay. Hello everyone. Welcome to my very first video. I sat and I thought long and hard about what the first video would be. But I thought the only way to show you how terrible of a reading slump I've been in for the past, dare I say, 4 years, is to go down every single book that I've read this year. Let's take into account I'm no longer in said reading slump, but it's been rough. It's been rough, and there's not many books on this list. I also just feel like they're all pretty all over the place, and there's no real good way for me to like divvy these up into separate videos. So we're just gonna get into it, okay? But this is where we are, and this is where we're gonna start. So I'm just gonna go down the list. This is in no particular order. If you're interested in knowing that order, I'll link my Goodreads. I don't do reviews on there, but I do track everything that I'm reading. And I like stalking people on there, so go check that out if you're interested. Without further ado, however, let's get started. I said no particular order, but then I lied to you, so don't trust me. I'm actually first going to do 2 books, one that I read and one that I'm currently reading. I'm going to get these out of the way real quick because they are required readings for a class that I'm taking this semester. I don't think anyone will care about these. I'm going to recommend one and steer you clear of another. The one that I'm going to steer you clear of is this book right here, The Myth of the Litigious Society, Why We Don't Sue by David M. Engel. If you are like pre-law, if you're a poli-sci student, but you like have a weird obsession with tort law or con law, go for it, I guess. It's super short, but I would never recommend this to anyone. It's reads like a required reading. It's interesting. Will I ever think about it once I close that last page? God, no. This one, however, I do love, and I've actually recommended it to multiple people in my life. And that is The Hollow Hope by Gerald N. Rosenberg. This one is super fun. She's big, she's chunky, but God, is she good. This book is essentially like sliced into 3 sections. The first being segregation, the second being women's rights, and the third being marriage equality. And it goes through, if you're American, and this is like amazing. If you're American, you probably know the cases Roe v. Wade, naturally, and Brown versus the Board of Education. I forget what the marriage equality case is. It's just a last name is what I think it starts with a G. Either way, it essentially goes through those cases and how we as students are taught that those cases were the end-all be-all. That's where segregation ended. That's where women got their rights back. And then that's just definitely not what happened. And in fact, those things were already happening prior to the court decision. Okay, that's it. That's all I'm going to say on those. I'm sorry. I apologize. Let's get to the good ones, okay? I'm going to start off with something good so that I can ease you into how much you're going to hate me for the next one. I didn't read this. I own it, haven't read it yet. I did read A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I searched my room for about 15 minutes prior to pressing record, and I have no clue where it is. I literally have no idea. She's just gone, MIA. I hope I see her again one day, but who's to say if I will? So we're gonna use her as a placeholder, okay? I loved this book. I loved this book so much. It was so much fun. If you don't know what the book is about, it's essentially about a teenage girl named Pippa. And in her town, a teenager went missing when she was in like elementary, middle school, but the teenager was in high school. And I forget her name, whatever. The teenager went missing. Now that she's in high school, she's a senior, she's doing her capstone project, and she decides that she wants to find out what really happened to Andy. That's her name. And so she kind of sets out to be this little detective, but she also enlists the help of the younger brother of the guy who they suspect killed Andy. So it's very interesting. She doesn't believe that her friend's older brother killed him or killed Andy. Oh my God, I'm so bad at explaining. But she doesn't believe that his older brother killed Andy, but she doesn't really know what happened. So she's kind of enlisting his help. She's enlisting the help of her best friend's older sister because she was friends with Andy before she died. And it's just like very fast paced. There's a lot going on. It's super duper fun. I love a good thriller, YA or otherwise. I love a good thriller. And I just thought this was so much fun. So yes, I will be getting on to Good Girl, Bad Blood pretty soon because I'm in the thriller mood. I feel like fall time is a good thriller time. But who's to say when? Next. I got approximately 200 pages into this book. I DNF'd it. Will I pick it up again sometime in the future? Maybe. Not likely though. I hated this. I hated everything about it, which is crazy, which is really crazy. I'd been recommended this book in person. I've been recommended through a screen. Everyone talks about this book when you bring up like fantasy, especially YA fantasy. This was not for me for many reasons. First off, before we even got into the romance, I hated the world. I can do urban fantasy. What I can't do is high fantasy and then they walk through a portal into a mini mall. I can't do that. That's not for me. And I didn't enjoy any aspect of that. It actually really peeved me. What I also don't like is enemies to lovers. Oh, I hate enemies to lovers, which I know I am in the minority. So I'm not going to dwell on that. If you love it, you love it. That's fine. I just don't. The reason why I hate enemies to lovers is so perfectly displayed in this singular book. I do not like the idea of someone being mean to another person and then that other person either A, finding a way to justify that disrespect and then getting with them, or B, having that be like an issue throughout the whole relationship, or C, they just don't acknowledge it at all and then become a couple. I don't like it. I don't like any way of that. I say that there is going to be an enemies to lovers series later on, but I will explain why that's okay to me and this is not. I'm just not a fan of literally like borderline killing her, like wanting her dead and acting on that want. Sir, you are a sociopath. Why do I want anything to do with you? I don't, and I don't know why she does. And the fact that she does really peeves me. So I just stopped reading it. Next, another book that I absolutely hated. Don't worry, this is the last book that I hated. The rest of them I actually really enjoy. I'm gonna look like such a hypocrite, okay? Just bear with me. This is Final Girls by Riley Sager. I'm gonna say one thing and then you're gonna hear me say another and you're just gonna have to bear with me. This is the worst book I think I've ever read, and I've read many a book. I don't read a ton of male authors. I've come to realize that, and this is the book that really set that in stone for me because I've never really had an issue with female characters. Main characters who are women typically are pretty boring. They're pretty bland. They're just used to move the story along. I can deal with that. I really don't have like any major gripe with that. What I do have a major gripe with is a man in text explaining to me how he thinks a woman losing her virginity feels like, thinks like, and acts like. This was vile. This was vile. And anyone who stands Riley Sager, you either haven't read this book or you're demented. You're demented. I don't understand. Like, it's so bad. It's so bad. Like, I genuinely don't even know if he thinks that women are real people after reading this. It's so vile. That being said, this, I loved to hate it. It wasn't just the way that he wrote about women that made me hate it. It was also the plot. And a lot of that had to do with him writing women doing things that women just don't do. And that bugged me. But this plot was also off the wall insane. I don't know what he was on. He must have snorted a line before every chapter he wrote. I have no clue. I can't explain it to you. Was it a wild ride? Yes. Do I hate him? Yes. Did I have a lot of fun? Yes, I did. Part of me, honest to God, kind of wants to binge all of his books and just see how bad they are. Because I love a good hate watch. I love reality TV because I hate everyone on it. This is giving that to me. It's giving that to me in book form. It's kind of like my obsession with trashy YA, except there are characters that I really like in trashy YA. There was no redeeming character in this book, but something about it, it's interesting. We'll see. Next up, I'm deciding to do all the physical books first. So those were all the physical books that I've read this year. Everything else that I've read, don't look at that, was on this Kindle here. I bought this, I didn't buy this. It was gifted to me in August. My lovely boyfriend purchased this for me. Thank you, King. I feel like I might just make a whole video on why this is the best invention that I have ever seen. It's just so wonderful. It makes me read so fast. It's portable. I love it. I can't say anything bad about it. It's amazing. So let's go through the books that I've read on this here Kindle, okay? Number 1, A Touch of Darkness. I don't know how to I don't know how to make it big, so I can't show you the cover. But that right there, this first one, is A Touch of Darkness and A Game of Fate. Those are the first 2 books in the Hades and Persephone series. I have never read an adult romance book, and I think the only romance books that I own and that I've ever read are the To All the Boys I've Loved Before books, the trilogy. Just a little note from me as I edit this video. The way I said that with my whole chest, meanwhile I had not 1, not 2, but 3 paranormal romance series behind me. Girl, get it together. That's all that anyone's ever gotten out of me. I just am not a romance girly. But this just seemed fun. It seemed up my alley. I'm interested in the Hades and Persephone thing. I gave the first one a 4 out of 5. It was so much fun. It is steamy. It's not Fade to Black. It is a romance smutty book. But it was so fun. I had a blast reading this, honestly. I liked the first book. When I read the second one, A Game of Fate, which, by the way, it's actually 2 separate series. If it starts with a touch, so A Touch of Darkness, A Touch of Ruin, A Touch of Malice, those are all from Persephone's point of view. And then if it starts with a game, so A Game of Fate, A Game of Retribution, those are from Hades' point of view. But you kind of want to read them in, I think it's publication order. I think that's how she did it. I don't know. But you kind of want to read them in that order so that you get the full scope of the story. I will say, for A Touch of Darkness, like I said, I first off gave it a 4 out of 5. I did demote it down to a 3 after reading A Game of Fate because I did really enjoy A Game of Fate a lot more than A Touch of Darkness. But it was still a lot of fun. I don't want that to take away from me recommending that you read it because it's really good. The crazy thing about it is that I didn't research after because I needed to know if what I was thinking was correct. Sorry, my dog is drinking water. I am very shocked that she was able to write the first book and then write the second book without initially thinking that she was going to write it. She wrote the game series, A Game of Fate, A Game of Retribution. She wrote those after the fact because people wanted Hades' point of view so much. And that was crazy to me because A Game of Fate has such an interesting plot. There's a lot going on. It's loosely based on the myth of Sisyphus. Obviously, the first one is Hades and Persephone, but the second one is Sisyphus, and then A Game of Retribution, I believe, also is around a little piece of mythology or whatever. But I thought that that was kind of amazing because she was able to weave the first story, A Touch of Darkness, into a completely different story from another character's point of view, and she did it really well, and I really enjoyed it. It's also just fun to get her point of view and his point of view. Very interesting. On top of all of that, I am a lover of Greek mythology, okay? I was a Percy Jackson kid. I was not a Harry Potter kid. I ate up every single side character in this series. Oh my god, it's so much fun. If you've read it, you should know by now, Hermes is the best character in the entire series. However, Hecate, amazing. Aphrodite, slay. Hephaestus, he ate it up. I loved it. I loved every single character, and I'm super excited to keep reading, and I hope that we get more of the other characters. So yes, 10 out of 10, loved those, would recommend. Next up, I actually do have these in physical form, but I did read them on my Kindle, so I'll take them down so you can see. Okay, remember when I said that I hated enemies to lovers? I didn't lie to you, but I also didn't give you the full truth. And the full truth is I do make exceptions, as everyone should. Next book I read was Obsidian by Jennifer L. Armentrout, followed by Onyx by Jennifer L. Armentrout. If you do not know what these are, if you don't know what these are, don't talk to me. I have loved, this was my first ever like favorite series of all time. It is the trashiest, corniest, cheesiest enemies to lovers, sci-fi, paranormal, spooky ooky romance. It's so much fun. When were these first published, bro? I really need to know. Oh my god, hello? 2012! These were published in 2012. I read them in 2013, 2014. I read them in 2013. God, they were borderline new releases when I read them. These are so much fun. If you don't know what these are about, shame on you, but I'll let you know. This is essentially Twilight, but with aliens. And when I say that, I mean it in the best way possible. Like literally, girl moves from super sunny state to super gloomy state. In this case, she moves next door to a brooding, tall, handsome young man who she goes to school with, and when she goes to school, he sits with all the weird kids, and everyone's like, oh, those are them. It's literally Twilight. It's so much fun. I'll just go over the first book. Again, this is like cheesy, trashy YA. I eat it up every single time. I've probably reread the series like 4 times by now, but God, is it good! So we essentially follow 2 main characters, Katie and Damon. Katie moves from Florida to, I believe, like West Virginia? Yes, West Virginia. And she moves next door to the hottest man you've ever seen. As you do when you're the main character of a romance book. He hates her guts. She has no clue why, but she befriends his twin sister named Dee. And so her and Dee kind of get along. They're besties, attached at the hip. But he hates her guts. The first book is kind of them going back and forth. She's like, why do you hate me? I'm not understanding. Quit bullying me. And he's like, you're no good for my sister or for my family. And she's like, why? Amazing. Second book, something happens at the end, and now he's pining after her. We love to see it. We love to see it. I am currently midway through, God, I'm going to break everything, Opal, which is the 3rd book in the series. I'm going to tell you something. If you love books, it might enrage you. So these are the new covers. Okay, beautiful, stunning. The old covers I have up there, they're disgusting. The first 2 books in the series have that soft, matte, like suede kind of finish. This one does not. And the next one does, but the last one does not, which is disgustingly vile, but I'll let it slide for JLA. The 3rd one, we get a return character. Again, I'm halfway through this one. I mean, I've read it before, so nothing is coming as a surprise to me, but we essentially get the return of a previous character, and now they're going up against the literal United States government. It's so much fun. Imagine like the Volturi, except in here, it's the Department of Defense. Is that not like something that you want in your life? I know it is. I know it is. Super fun. If you haven't read these and you're in a reading slump, I feel like trashy YA is the way to go when you're in a reading slump because they just rip you right out of it. Super fun. All right, guys, we are almost done. I know you're sick of hearing me talk, so it'll be over soon. But the other two books that I'm currently reading right now are, one is on my Kindle, one is a physical thing. This is The Naturals. I just started this yesterday, so I'm only on page 134. Super duper fun. When people said this is Criminal Minds for kids, they meant it. They meant it. We essentially follow a main character named Cassie. She's got this, also, if you've seen Psych, Cassie is like, she does what Sean Spencer does essentially. She is a natural born profiler. She looks at someone and knows everything about them. Super fun, super spooky ooky. But her mom also was brutally murdered and her dad is away in the military. So she gets contacted by the FBI. They're like, hey queen, do you want to come work for us? And she's like, sure. So she does. And she moves into a house with 4 other teenagers who each have like fun little things that they do, like skills that they have, I guess. One of them reads people's emotions, one's a walking encyclopedia, one is like a really good liar and can tell when people are lying, and then one of them is also a profiler like her. And it's very fun. Right now I'm just in the training space. I'm assuming based on the little cut-ins we get that we will be solving a case by the end of this book, but right now they're just training, they're becoming friends, she's getting to know everyone. It's so much fun, but it is to a T Criminal Minds. So if you like the show, there's no way that you don't like the book. I guess the only way would be if you don't like the characters, but honestly I feel like they're tame enough. You kind of have to like them. Hey guys, I'm back for another little cut-in. Just wanted to let you guys know I did in fact finish The Naturals, and the ending, I can't speak on it. You'll see it in my wrap up, but dear Lord, I was not prepared. Someone warn her. Last book that I'm currently reading, this one kind of sad. I don't love it. I will finish it, but not my favorite. That is, okay, well, it's Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. I started reading this book, crazy. I would never pick it up personally, like it just didn't vibe with me, I guess. But I actually met Stephanie Garber very briefly at a book signing like a month ago. I went to go get a bunch of books signed by Karen M. McManus, who wrote One of Us is Lying, which is one of my favorite books ever. And she was there. She was the conversation with person, basically. And she was super sweet. She's so beautiful. She's very like just glowing, and I loved everything about her. And she's actually coming back to that same Barnes & Noble. I think she lives where I live. She made a comment at the Karen M. McManus book signing that she's always in that Barnes & Noble because it's her local Barnes & Noble. Does she live where I live? I'm so like shocked by that. But she is doing another book signing for the 3rd book in the Once Upon a Broken Heart series trilogy. So I thought, oh, maybe I'll read it and then I can go. Unfortunately, she won't be signing books, but she'll have pre-signed books for the first 2, and then you can have her sign the 3rd, I think is what's happening. I don't love it. It's just not for me. It's not that it's not good, because it feels weird. Like nothing about it is particularly bad, and I wouldn't say it's a bad book, but it is definitely not for me. It's written like a fairy tale. I keep imagining like Ella Enchanted or Princess Bride. Like every time I read it, I think that in my head I should be narrating it like some old man reading a story to a child, if that makes sense, which is very fun and very whimsical. It's just not something that I am into. That's not the type of fantasy that I like, but that's okay. That's totally fine. Like I said, I'll probably finish it. It's a super easy read. I will give it that. it's very quick, fast-paced. There's no real like world building or like explaining of the magic system, if there even is one. Like, it just kind of thrusts you into it, and that's okay. Like, you don't feel like you're being thrown into something that you can't handle. It's just how it is, and you're quick to like get back up on your feet and understand what's going on in the story. So that is nice that it's a quick read, especially because I kind of want to get it over with as soon as humanly possible, because it's just not for me. Alrighty, everyone, you're welcome. I'm done. That is a wrap on every single book that I've read this year so far. I will do another one of these probably at the end of the year, because again, I'm in the midst of 3 books, and I'm in the midst of 2 different series that I would like to complete, like currently, and then I obviously want to get to this one. There's a lot of books I want to get to, so we'll see. But thank you so much for watching, and maybe I'll see you soon.